welcome to another amazing day at fmtraining.tv. My name is Margaret. I'm here with the fantastic Christian Schmidt, who is here to discuss the wonderful MBS plugin that goes with FileMaker, which is fantastic. It is really one of the best products you can get to really elevate your ability to work with FileMaker platform. Hello, everyone. Hope you all are doing pretty okay. Today we are talking about Easy SQL with MBS, basically interacting with SQL without ever having to go through your FileMaker application, which will be really quite cool. I hope you guys have some questions concerning that, about things you might want to do or considering doing with SQL, which would be interesting. So everyone, you should do two things if you would like to support us. First of all, you should absolutely buy the Monkeybread plugin. It is fantastic. It does have like a free version, which has like a lot of functions in of itself, but like the paid version is worth the money, and it's worth all the things that you can magically fix in your FileMaker platform with it. Even just like, ease of life things where like you have colored scripts so you can actually see what you're looking at instead of like a wall of text. So it's monkeybreadsoftware.de, right?
Or .com.
Cool. .com also works. You should all get this. This is amazing. Richard doesn't recommend many products. He doesn't like to because, he can't guarantee that they're fantastic. This is a product that is absolutely fantastic in every conceivable respect. Christian is a fantastic coder, and he also responds really well on time, all but like really fast. People are always like, when we talk about Christian Schmitz, they're like, well, he does all these functions, and if I have a problem, he responds like almost instantly. It's really quite cool. His tech support is on point. Also, if you would happen to like to support the channel, feel free to get the wrong button. Where we go. The bundle. FM Training Annual Subscription Bundle. It is 100+ hours of really intense video, high energy training. It's Richard, Nick, Calvin, Jacob, all people you're familiar with on stream, and they pretty much break down how to become a FileMaker, intermediate level FileMaker developer over the 100+ hours. So if you were like, I would like some smaller bite-sized content discussing other questions that I don't see related on stream, or I'd just like to support the channel, feel free to get this. It's great. We would appreciate it. Helps keep us all going. Cool. With that being said, I think we are good now, Christian Schmitz, if you would like to share your screen.
Yeah. Okay, so welcome to MBS plugin, and today we are talking about some SQL functions in FileMaker, SQL inside FileMaker databases, but without writing your SQL yourself. So we have a couple of convenience functions, like here, insert record. And we will try that function now. So I got here a copy of FileMaker. Let's just make a new dummy database. Let's say we have assets. So we already have a table here for assets. And now the usual way to add a record in FileMaker would be to go to a layout, to fill in fields, and then to commit the changes to the database. But sometimes you may want to create a record in a database without switching the layout. Whether this is a log entry or you just want to quickly create a lot of records without switching layouts, then you can do that with a plugin. So let's just take up the data viewer. So plus. So we have here the function. So in that record needs first a file name. So this means you can add a record to any open file you have in FileMaker. It's not just the current one. Also, in most times, we just pass in a empty string here to take the current one. Then we pass a table name. So you can reference any table you like. That doesn't need to be any relationship to it from the current layout. And then you pass field names and field values as parameters. Just make sure that the value matches the data type in FileMaker, so it should be either text or a number, or date, container, whatever. So let's try it. So we have the table assets, has name, description, serial number. So let's fill in a few of them. So MBS, you see our now that's FileMaker's type ahead. So MBS dot, you see our type ahead in that record. There it is. Double click, enter. Yeah, enter. Okay. So file name, let's take current file. Table name is assets. assets. Typing is so difficult. So let me just turn off the automatic evaluation. So assets, so we have a name. That's our new assets. Well, what asset is it? Here. Bob's iPhone or whatever. So this is the first field name. Now we add another field name. Description. And just a test. So we have a field price and 1, 2, 3. So now you see, let's see, you see here in the background, no records. So I take this window and I evaluate it. And I got back a result from the plugin. Okay. And in the background, you see there's one record. Everyone seeing that?
Yes.
Okay. So you see, we just used this expression to create a record with a plugin. So.
Yeah, Ruben says, dang, not even a script stack, but only a calc.
Yeah. So let's just put some, it's always good to have here file name. So this could also be assets or table name. And now we have here the, so this is the pairs. So I just format it in the way, and you see sometimes the plugin does the coloring after the text changed. But if FileMaker decides to itself format the text, then it turns all blue or whatever. But then you just press any key and the plugin is again formatting it. So we just added this. Let's copy this and put it maybe in a script. So all the people liking scripts are happy. So let's make a new script. So, and this can be any script step, like set variable is perfect for it. You put it in, let's say now it's Joe's iPhone. I'll run it again, and we have 2 records, and now we have Joe's iPhone. If you make a little mistake, let's say your data types don't match. So let's say the price is ABC, or let's say you have the price, but it's as text, and we evaluate it, we get an error here. So this is error message 13, which has a text, incompatible types and assignments, and it's at position 62. So where 62? Well, I can actually just look for match. So let's see, 62, where's 62? Oh, actually, the position is here. That's strange. Oh, well, whatever FileMaker reports. So it says at some position there's a type assignment problem because the price field is a number and this is a text. So you could fix it by saying something like here, get as number, and you convert it on the fly, whatever value you have, like if that's a variable, you could convert it and then it works. So we just added another record. This can be very useful, like if you have a logs table. Let's just create one. Manage database table. Let's say we have a logs table. And we have here some message. And yeah, well, that's enough. Because we have timestamps automatically, so we see when the message was created. And now whenever you run a script, like let's make a new script for printing. Let's say we want to print here, so print. And we want to log that someone is printing. We could just say here set variable and say here MBS. Oh, we go to the other dialog. So MBS FM insert record. That's in the assets file. Table name is logs. So, and message is something like, and this can be a calculation. Let's say account name is about to print record, get record ID in on layout, get layout name. Whatever, you can log whatever your name, whatever you want, of course. So, and on the end, we can say another record and say garden did print record. So let's just run it. Oh, there's a print dialog. I just press cancel. So let's see, we go to the logs table and we have a record, we have two records, so it's working. Make this layout a little bit less. And maybe put in timestamp so we see when the log, yeah. So we can just add a log record at any point in any calculation, wherever you like, just by using this insert statement.
Does this work with Windows and on server?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, to both. There you go, Scott.
Yeah, well, this of course it works on Windows. That's the documentation says Mac, Windows, Linux, server, iOS SDK if you want. Everything should work. Of course, you need to have some permissions to edit this table, and then you can just create records on the fly. That's what we did. If you like, you can even do some more. Like you can say, we take the table name from FileMaker. So table. So we are on a table. And let's take the here field name. Get field name for, what was it, name? Oh, different assets. So here, there's a name field here. So I can just use FileMaker to tell the plugin, see assets list. So we have 3. Let's run it. Does it work? Yeah, it works. So I don't need to write name as a parameter here. I just tell FileMaker, give me the name of this item. And as you may know, if you change the name of the field, this calculation will update because FileMaker knows that this calculation is referencing a field. And so it updates the text here whenever you change the field name.
So okay, so we got 2 questions, Christian. So do we have to pass a UUID to find, update our record, or is there another technique?
Yeah, that has always been a problem, that FileMaker doesn't tell you the ID of the last created record. Some people just use something like max record ID, so they use a SQL query to find the latest ID, but this doesn't work if you have a server with several people using the database. And Richard is there.
I am here. I am sorry I am late.
So what we usually do is we use our own ID field where we put in a value and then we can later search for the value.
Is it context insensitive?
Well, since you can specify the file and the table and whatever field names you like, it's independent of your current context. So, yes.
Cool, because Stu has said it looks like I could use it for logging.
Yeah, we just did that. So, and there's another trick even with the plugin that you can specify field names with the index. So show ID. So field price is field number 5. So I can also just put in here 5. 3, 4, 5. And that's now Richard's iPhone.
Mm.
So let's run this record, and you see the price field got found by the plugin, because the plugin can, if you pass in the field ID, we can look up the current table, of course, only with the current table, to figure out which field is that. One of the better things may be to use this one, because it updates if you change the field name. But you can also just type them or use a number.
Hey, Christian, did you specify or otherwise discuss why this stuff is important? Because FileMaker by itself is, when you do SQL stuff with FileMaker, with the SQL function, you can read data and collect data, but you really can't write data, right? Everyone understands that, because understanding that is a very important certification question, certification test. FileMaker has some SQL stuff, but not really the deleting and editing and adding data. So that's why the Monkeybread plugin is so important, right? I mean,
We are a step further, because we don't want people to have to write their own SQL statements. We have functions like here, the insert record, which do that for you.
Really?
We just run this. Let's see the statement the plugin created. We have a function for that, of course. So let's see, execute, what was it? There we have it. So the plugin created this statement for you. Insert into assets, the table name, the field names we specified, and there are question marks to be filled in with the values. So you don't have to write this yourself if you just use the plugin functions to make an insert statement for you. Okay.
That's really cool that it builds it for you automatically. That's neat. Cool. So so you call this loosely easy SQL, right? That's what you call kind of a loose term.
Yeah, well, it's just one of our convenience functions here for SQL in FileMaker. And the next one would be to update a record. That's here. So we want to update a record. So let's go back to the data viewer. See the layout. You see Bob's iPhone is $128. This record, how can I watch it? Here, I can see it. Let's type in a serial number. Let's say this is 123 is a serial number. So now I can reference the record by the serial number. And let's go to the data. Where is it? So now you can see it. MBS FM update record. So current file name. Oh, I have to remove the checkbox here. So table name is assets. So we reference the record by one of the primary keys usually. For this example, I just take here the serial number field.
Okay.
The value currently is 123. I think it's a text field. So we update the price field and say the new price is now 234. Let's evaluate it, and you see the price changed. So the plugin will go and look for record matching this. So find this record. That these fields. So let's say we also want to change the name. So we can add another field here. This is now Robert's phone. Evaluate. Oh, I missed a semicolon. Evaluate, and the name also changed.
Yeah, so David says, hey, so this will search for the record 123, and then it will update that record, right? Yes?
Yeah. So we can specify here a field name, and usually the primary key. And this allows you to quickly update a record in a different table without going to the other layout, without making some changes there, committing, and then
yeah, without context, What if someone else is editing record 123, Lynn? My guess, Lynn, before he answers the question, is that this will return See, his results down here say okay. I think down there at the bottom it says okay, but if its record's locked, I think it'll come back with a error condition, I would guess.
We have error codes. I think they are listed here. No, not here. Where did my error codes go? Oh yeah, here's a list of error codes. So there is probably an error code for locking, or
okay,
there's
so
probably an error for
I want to
because
take
the
a
record is
pause real
locked.
quick here, real quick. Pause. So there's this conversation going on, and I want to be clear about this with Stu. Stu asked a really great question. So we're trying to frame this a little bit, what your product is doing as opposed to the built-in capabilities of FileMaker. Within FileMaker is two things that are named nearly identically that do totally different things. One is the execute SQL function, which goes inside a calculation. The other one is the execute SQL script step, which will act upon an ODBC data source, okay? So generally, and if I say this wrong, Christian, feel free to stop me. So I'm going to try to articulate this. The execute SQL statement, the script step, will execute on an outside data source of some type. You can edit, delete, do whatever you can do in SQL with that. The execute SQL function is primarily a read-only, and it's targeted towards the inside. You can target it to go back and retrieve data from you out of FileMaker, right? Did I articulate that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
Listen, I have to be able to articulate this as an instructor. And when I say this, and then Christian agrees with me, I make sure I'm saying it correctly. So if you want to write a SQL statement in FileMaker that edits the inside of your FileMaker file, that doesn't exist natively. I think that's the whole point, right? We can send an SQL statement external to another data source that will edit, delete, whatever, but the execute SQL script step, right? Or not script step, function is a read-only kind of deal. It's designed to go and dip. You don't have to create relationships. It allows you to do reporting and stuff, all sorts of cool stuff, but it's basically a read-only function, right?
Yeah, that was on the different page here.
Yeah.
So you can use insert, update, delete if it's an ODBC source.
Yeah. So strictly speaking, Stu, I guess you could try to glue an SQL or a FileMaker file on the other side of the ODBC driver. But this really, I mean, that's like driving 100 miles to go to the grocery store. It's probably not a great idea, right? I mean, most people, I guess if you live way out in the middle of nowhere, then 100 miles is okay. But most people like to live within 15, 20 minutes or less of a grocery store. It says, thanks for clarifying the function versus script step is the same regardless of FM data versus ODBC. I'm not quite understanding the question. Execute SQL script step targets external ODBC source, whatever on the other side of that, we don't know. It could actually be a FileMaker on the other side of that. We don't particularly care. The script step, the function then is internal to your file or wherever your calculation is going to target, right? So hopefully that's clear. Listen, you will get totally jacked up on the certification test if you don't understand that limitation. That limitation is an important limitation, right? Because then that's why this becomes an important product. By understanding Claris's limitation of the product, that's where, once again, Monkeybread spread comes in here. There he says, you need a plugin to insert, update, delete via SQL within FileMaker, right? So by FileMaker by itself will do read. But if you want those other, it's the CRUD acronym. It's create,
read, update, delete.
Update, delete. So if you want to do the CRUD, but everything except the R, FileMaker does it. So you need the CUD part of the CRUD, the CUD. You need a plugin for that.
The next thing would be to delete a record. We have that turned off. So here, delete record, assets table. We find the record by the serial number and just run it. And now we have 4 records only. So how do I show you? Go back to the assets list. And Robert's phone is gone. So I have to add that the delete record here has a check. So the plugin will make a query to see how many records it would hit with the delete by using the given field and value. If it's not 0 or 1, so if it's several records, we would give you an error.
Really? So
So,
that only works if you're targeting a single record or
yeah,
no records.
you can only find a single record, and that's a little sick. Well, to help people, I mean, yeah, people who deleted a lot of records. So I made also a delete records, which doesn't have that.
Ah, with an S. Okay.
So there's, if you have the S there, it deletes several records, which
Can
of
it-
course itself creates a problem because now people type an extra S and lose all data.
So David Angel says, what's .last SQL? .last. Last SQL.
Oh yeah, well, we have this last SQL. So we have here, we had originally the execute SQL function, and then people asked how we could get back what was the last error number, what was the last error message, what was the last SQL. So
it's giving you the
values
it's giving you the last SQL statement that was sent in, is what you're saying.
to the plugin, yeah. So the plugin
Okay.
keeps that information. Let's just take a look here. Data view, you can always just query it. So, and you see here is a delete statement. So whatever SQL operation, even if, like our audit engine, I mean, if you run our audit engine, you would see the last statement run by the audit engine because we keep that information for you. Debug a little bit if the plugin would create an incorrect SQL statement, probably based on incorrect input.
Yep.
Like you put in the wrong field name. So we had delete, we had insert. So insert or update, that's another thing. People love it. So you may want to put in a record, but it may already exist. In that case, you would like to update it. That's what we had in the MongoDB video as an upsert.
Oh, that's
Insert
right. Upsert.
Insert or update. You may have the record, you may not have the record. So let's go back here and see. I think we had a little script for an insert. Let's just say we make it an insert or update. So Richard's iPhone is a record which I think here exists. So let's say we have again something like John's iPhone, just a test. And this was price. So 1, 2, 3. Let's run it. We get here John's iPhone. So we just created this record out of thin air. It wasn't there. Plugin didn't find it. So let's put in a new price, 2, 3, 4. Run it again. And the price updated because this record exists already. Of course, using the name with the field for the name as a primary key here to find the record is, of course, not a good idea. Usually you would use whatever other ID field you have to identify the record. And because people love this function so much, we made a couple of more versions here, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that means you can have up to 5 primary keys to find your record.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so people use this to not just reference something by a primary ID, but also to reference something by several IDs. Like you have a table connecting your products with maybe the warehouse record for the quantity, and maybe the billing record for some invoices. So you want to find all records for product, and in the connecting table, you want to find all things based on the product in a certain warehouse and sold to a certain people.
Okay.
And then change your value there. So you can
I
have
would think 4 or
keys.
5. So you support up to 5 of those. I think that makes the most. I don't have 2. Well, I could name the searches I have where there's a lot of parameters. I have like 1 or 2 ever that I do. And there's
So
like 20 searches.
I made it for 1, and then people ask, oh, can I have please 2 and 3? And eventually we came to someone who needed 5.
Okay.
Whatever.
Well, now it makes sense. It's just that's the road to hell is paved with customer requests like that. So Lynn says, I have read that FMSQL can slow down to a crawl when a record is open. Josh Orman has said that if you run execute SQL on a table where the record is open, FileMaker server will send all you the data, let you to let the client configure. Does this apply to the?
Yeah, well, the whole SQL thing has performance concerns. That's normal. So the first use of a SQL statement on a table may lead to FileMaker Pro downloading the whole table locally, so it can evaluate the SQL locally. That's something you should know. And if there is a record open for editing, the SQL needs to be evaluated locally, so this may take longer because it takes the edits into account. If you need more speed, you could use perform script on server to let the server run the MBS statement.
So let me ask a question on this. Is a good one about performance. So I'm gonna rephrase what you just said. I'm gonna ask a question. This might seem like you just answered that, but I'm gonna double down to make sure we have this straight. So if you're on Pro or Go and you do a execute SQL function within a calculation on those clients will always or most of the time download the table. What is it like? Always they download the entire contents of the table, or just sometimes?
Well, I think it's optimized to only download the fields you need, not the whole records.
Okay, but it doesn't evaluate any of it on the server. So it's a lot like an unstored calculation, right? A little bit, right? I guess kind of like.
Yeah, that's something we may have to look up. But if you have a table with millions of records, it may be a problem. So
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, if you're adding a record, is it gonna? I mean, adding a
no,
record
not for
should
adding. I mean, adding is just creating a new record.
But what is it? Is it reading it, or is it what causes the table to download? I'm just asking a question. I don't use this stuff very often, so for me, I'm kind of
Well,
learning.
I would expect if you do a select statement and FileMaker determines that it needs additional data to run the select statement.
Okay.
Like if you have a select statement where you compare in the select a field to a value, FileMaker needs to have all the values for that field.
Okay.
So it will download them.
Yeah. So Claris has been
But
working.
it will cache them. So
Yeah.
next
So
time it will be faster.
Yeah, Claris has been working to move some of the things to the server that have historically been on the client. So sorts will be offloaded if you're using the current versions of the product. Once again, I'll have someone asking me, well, what about FileMaker 18? If you're using FileMaker 19 server.3 with clients that are at least 19.3, you get the sorting on the server if it's able to do that with some criteria. With 19.5, you get the summary field calculation on the server if the clients and the server are both at 19.5, right? Or better. Eventually they'll be 19.6, whatever. But I don't know if they have plans to offload this one to the server more for you. Doing with PSauce, right? Dick has been spending a lot of time talking about robots and PSauce. That would be one way of handling it. Roll it all up and have the server do it for you. Seems to me that would be the obvious answer to the problem, right? So
yeah, you may want to write a script for in that case, like you want to trigger your log writing via PSauce, and then you would look if that was successful, or if you are not on a server, and in both cases you would do it locally.
Okay, so David has a question here, and I think it's worthwhile to answer this question two different ways, right? So David Angel says, how to test if a record is open before an update or a delete. So he's asking how to test it. So let's answer this two ways. Let's answer it without the context of Monkeybread, right? First, so so Christian Schmidt, I mean, I don't know if you know the answer to this. You can get the condition of a record, right? If it's open or locked, etc. But then you can that's one thing you can do within the FileMaker platform. There's a couple get functions for that. We could dig into that. But then in terms of Monkeybread, you would remember that whatever, if you test it with FileMaker techniques, you have to be in the context, right? And the whole point of the SQL stuff is that you can do stuff out of context. So if you're going to update or delete something, let's say update something that's out of your context, update some record, and you're asking to check if it's editable first, right? It's already locked somewhere else. How would we do that with your product, Christian Schmidt?
I wouldn't expect it to succeed. I would expect that FileMaker gives us back an error and that's record locked.
Okay, so Dave was just asking how to, I think implying how you would test it in advance before you started firing. I think Christian's saying that
You could make an
it.
update statement, set field to the value of that field.
Okay,
You can always make a dummy request, but I'm not finding the error code for record being locked. It's something we pass to FileMaker. We pass a statement to FileMaker, and the engine used is basically the same as being as used for ODBC connection from outside.
Okay.
We have another video in 2 weeks, and I can look up this.
You will bring it back and
try
make
it.
sure we cover that one.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
I don't feel too bad because most of the time you're never able to stick Christian. He always has an answer. We play those games where we try to stump. We call it stump the monkey, where you try to ask a question he can't answer. And we had 15 questions that day, and 1 or 2 of the 15 or 20 you couldn't answer. That's a pretty good. It's like better than 90% hit rate.
So one in the chat was curious about my table statistics function.
Okay.
That's something I wrote for a client to figure out how big a table is. So the plugin will go and will read all the values from the table and make a little statistics by counting how many text values are there, how many number values is there, how much text is there in total, how big are all the containers together, what type of containers do we have, like how many PNG files are in the container fields in that table, how many JPEGs, and what is the size of all those JPEGs.
So this is the size of all the PNG, size of all the JPEG.
Yeah, so there's just one in there. It's a little test table, but you could take a table from your own database, maybe not too big one, and then run this function.
Okay.
And see if the table is huge, it will take long, but eventually finish. So we had people which complained that it takes an hour.
Okay.
For a table. Okay. So depends on the size. So I can just run it here on the assets table. Assets. So here's nothing on the table. It's quite instantly. So it just gives you a few values. So there's text 350 characters.
Okay.
So, and yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's running on the server or not.
You could run it on the server side. Yes,
we could run it on the server. Yeah, you could PSOS it. Yeah,
yeah. So we made it for people to figure out how big a table is about, because FileMaker doesn't have a function for that. And if you like to know the volt size, it's probably something like the size of all the containers and then all text lengths. So all the number and date fields are also converted to text, and this size is counted. And FileMaker, I think, uses UTF-2, UTF-16, so it's by 2, multiplied by 2. So you could calculate the whole table size without the internal metadata.
I have a question. What version of the Monkeybread plugin do I need to have that function, that size function?
It's quite old, 8.2.
Okay, so I got 12.1. I should be able to do it over here on my computer.
Yeah, you should be able to just run it on a table you have there. Please, if it has millions of records, it will take.
You want to? Okay, quit sharing your screen briefly here. So this is a FileMaker file right here. This has aviation training stuff in it, right? And it's got a lot of containers. So if I wanted to run a test to see, so if I go to field definitions, I got tables, I got training space documents, right? So I could get the information on training documents here. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would walk me through this. Pretend I don't know anything about your product.
You go to the data viewer.
Okay, here I go. I'm on data viewer.
So plus watch tab.
Yep, hang on, I'm getting there.
Plus.
Plus. Okay,
so the first thing would be please turn off this a checkbox for automatic evaluate.
Okay. Okay, great.
So now we type MBS.
Okay. Now what?
Yeah, return. Yeah.
Okay.
So in quotes, fm dot table.
Table
Yeah,
statistic.
return.
Okay. Table
Yeah,
name.
file
Is
name
that,
can be
should this be in
empty.
quotes or not in quotes?
What's the file name? You
yeah.
don't need
Okay. Okay, but it put
so the file name can be an empty text.
okay. Wait, did I screw that up? Table name? Hang on a second here.
Yeah, not a
Hang on.
problem.
Let me go backwards. File
So
name.
file name can be empty or
Okay, it could be empty. So I just like
for
that.
the current one, yeah.
And then I do training
the
document.
table name in quotes without the double columns.
Got it. Stand by. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
So that what I'm doing is I'm simulating a normal human developer.
Okay. And now evaluate.
Okay, and then we're gonna evaluate and we're gonna hope for the best. Yep. And
you should put
quotes.
maybe empty quotes there. Yeah.
Okay. And then whoa.
There you go.
Okay. See, now this number is too, okay. So just from my perspective, this is really hard. So these are bytes.
This is 5
so
gigabytes.
I'd have to do a conversion on that, but yeah.
Yeah, you can copy it to the calculator and then.
Okay, so let me copy that. And so what is going to be the math on that for me?
You divide it by 1,000 and.
Okay, so
paste.
Divide by.
Divide by 1,000. Return. So this is kilobytes, and now you press return again.
Oh yeah, you're right. No, I can see it there. There's your comma there. So it's 5.5 gigs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense because if you know what I got little sizes right here, each record, megabyte, megabyte. I put some other training documents in here the other day. 26 megs, 17 megs. So you can see where it could get really big, really fast, right? So interesting. All right, cool. I like that. Claris needs some commas. Yeah, well, it's just programmer geeky stuff. This way it works.
Yeah, well, it's a JSON, so we return it as normal numbers. Then you can write your own user interface to it.
Yep. I like that function because having that give you the totals, because otherwise what I'd have to do is do like some sort of summary on that list, right?
So we have that. Let's see. So you can, of course, just do normal SQL requests. So we have here a function like execute file SQL. Or I could just try it and say, let's make a request here. Data viewer, watch plus MBS, FM, execute file SQL. So file name, again, empty. I could make a statement like select name from assets. So delimiter for a column, we default, and parameters, we don't need any parameters, so we just get the name. So this is running a normal SQL select statement from with the plugin. And we had a question with a join. So this is so you want to make a relationship in SQL. I first need to have here some related records. So let's take a look on the. So we have assets and they have assignments. What's here? Minus one. Why don't I see all the fields? There must be more fields. Note here, assignment. So there's assignment. The node has an asset foreign key. Yeah. So I have to get to learn all the field names. So asset foreign key must match here the primary key.
Hey, you can go back over the relationships. We can see it there. Let's see. If you go back here, you just have to click on the little button there and it'll right. And one more time.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Then there you go.
There it is. Okay.
There you go.
So primary key to assets and get the node for the name. So let's take a look. Discard. Go back to the data viewer. There's it. That's my data viewer. Hidden behind all those fields. So select name, node, assets, join, this is assignments, on primary key like equals to assignments. I can look here. Asset foreign key. So name is in both, so it's assets.name. And now I got John's iPhone and the related. Left outer join. So that's a left outer join, which means we have all the records from the first table and only records from the second table if there is one.
I just learned something new.
Left outer join. And as you see here, if we remove that piece, we only get the one record being there with a record. So let me paste that quickly. I'm very happy that this worked on the first try.
There you go. Your stuff mostly works on the first try, and if it doesn't, he normally fixes it pretty quick. Well, if you're interested in purchasing the Monkeybread plugin, we highly recommend that you do that. We don't really run around and say, go buy stuff, but it's so inexpensive and it does so much. And Christian actually helps us train and learn how to use it. It's hard to say no to someone like that in the FileMaker community. I want to remind you that this has been or has been product of the year multiple times in the world of FileMaker. And so as a result of that, yeah. So if you're interested in checking out purchasing it, go to Monkeybread software, right? There he is. Was that Las Vegas?
No, Dallas.
Dallas, yeah.
So you currently get, I think, 6,800 functions. So if you divide $150 by 6.8, so it's just something like 2 cents per 2 cents per functions.
2 cents per function, right? So super cheap. You get, and he gives you a bulk deal on buying all the functions at one time instead of individually. Yep. So cool. That's it. All right, Mr. Christian Schmidt. Awesome work. Don't forget to purchase and support the channel. Go to Monkeybread software, do a search in Google, and you'll see the funky little monkey. Funky monkey. Get the funky monkey. Use it with your customers. Awesome. All right, cool. That's it for today. See everyone. Catch you tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Christian Schmidt.
Welcome. Goodbye.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!